Buddham Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami Buddham Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami Buddham Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sanje Joda Zoge Jonamla Janju Bardo Dane Yapsunch Age Jinso Yebe Sonam Ye Dola Benjir Sanje Jubare Shu Sanje Joda Zoge Jonamla Janju Bardo Dane Yapsunch Age Jinso Yebe Sonam Ye Dola Benjir Sanje Jubare Shu Sanje Jula Zoge Chonamla Chanju Pardo Dane Yapsuch Age Jinso Gebe Sonam Ye Dola Penjir Sanje Jubare Shu Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Dathagato Hevatat Desham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashramana Yesva Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Hevatat Desham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashramana Yesva Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Dathagato Hevatat Desham Chayo Nirodha Evam Swaha. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata, the cessational causes as well as taught by the great Siya. Deyatha Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gate Bodhisvatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisvatyata Tyatham Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhisvaha Tyatham Swaha. Okay, we'll read Lama Adisha's the lamp of the path of enlightenment. One, 131. Okay, page 131, reading Lama Adisha's the text, A Lamp for the Path of Enlightenment. And I'm going to quickly share about this background of this text. What happened was that it was 11th century AD. 11th century AD, Tibet was going through a very difficult time. 300 years of the fragmentation of the whole Tibetan Empire because of some internal problems. That the Tibetan king, 8th century AD, Tibetan king Tizong Dezen, his time, Buddhism in Tibet was just at its like peak, where the Bodhisattva Shantarakshita was invited from the India to Tibet, and his student Acharya Kamalashil was also invited later, and to disseminate Buddhism in Tibet, and particularly Bodhisattva Shantarakshita. The contribution that he made is just immense. And he was already in his 70s when he was invited to Tibet. And yet, just imagine from Nalanda, the place where the temperature was maybe like in 40s, and suddenly invited to Tibet, a temperature maybe like, say, in the winters, minus 10, 20. And yet he was already in his 70s, and those days, no facilities like AC, aircon, heating system, nothing. And he came there. And no aeroplane facilities, no car ride facilities. Still from Nalanda, this elderly, this monk scholar and great master was invited. He came there to Tibet at the invitation of the Tibetan kingdom, Tibetan king. Then the whole translation system started. Translation department started. That the Tibetans, they were so dedicated that they were ready to learn Sanskrit in order to learn Dharma. And Sanskrit learning Sanskrit in a foreign country, not in his native country, foreign country, it'll take more time. And so Bodhisattva Shantarakshita, he being extremely practical, great philosopher, logician also, philosopher. So he advised the king that no need to put unnecessary waste of time on learning Sanskrit. Better you translate the materials available in Sanskrit into the Indian language, from Indian language to Tibetan language. So the whole translation project was started, and that too commissioned by the Tibetan king himself, Tibetan emperor, and then standardization all happened. For example, today, a guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life in Tibetan, if it's only given with teaching, then thousands and thousands of people come, and they guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. So this book, only one translation comes, no 2-3 translation comes. Now in English, if someone's going to give teaching, that translator has to specify, I'm going to use this translation, right? Otherwise, 10 different translations come. There's no standardization there. So this was the effort of the Tibetan emperor. Standardization happened, and that too, that translation happened on various levels. The first translation, raw translation, then edited, second edition, third, and the final edition. So many layers on this translation has they have to go through all these the editors. Then there was the 8th century AD. There was the golden era for Tibetan Buddhism in Tibet. Then, like towards the end of 8th century, 9th century, beginning of 9th century, the Tibetan king, the Tirilpachen, Tibetan emperor, and he made a great contribution again. So, in the history of Tibet, 3 Tibetan kings are respected so much as the religious king. First one is King Songtsen Gampo, 7th century AD. Reveres the one who actually encouraged Buddhism to come to Tibet. Second king, King Trisong Detsen, who made Buddhism really take root in Tibet with all the huge translation projects started. Then started standardization of the text, all these things started. And of course, the 7th century AD, King Songtsen Gampo, he sent his minister to invent the Tibetan script, which can be useful to translate the materials into Tibetan. So that was already started. Then 8th century King Trisong Detsen. Then the beginning of 9th century King Tirilpachen. So these 3 kings were being respected so fondly by the Tibetans for their contribution in establishing Buddhism in Tibet. Then King Tirilpachen, unfortunately, they say that one of his brothers, Langdharma, so he took over as a king after King Tirilpachen, and then he was influenced by the native Tibetan religion. Buddhism was a foreign religion. It was not a native religion. And already there existed a native religion there in Tibet, known as Pön religion. And so Buddhism was still very prevalent in those days, although Buddhism already took part, and the Tibetan emperor, they accepted Buddhism as the state religion. Still, the Pön religion was so active, and very influential people were there. And King Langdharma, he was greatly influenced by the Pön religion, the traditional Tibetan religion, indigenous religion of Tibet. Then, so he, being influenced by Pön religion, he started to simply terminate Buddhism in Tibet, kill, destroy the monasteries. He just did all these things. So, and finally, he was assassinated by the person who just he was just a simple person, and knowing that this king is just bringing such a destruction to Buddhism, so he could not bear it, tolerate it, and then he assassinated that king, and then Tibet, it was just fragmented. Tibet, just everything went into pieces. And the small places, they were governed by different small chieftains. And I mean, like, for 300 years, Tibet remained totally fragmented without any loss of the beautiful Buddhist philosophy and psychology established by the King Trisong Detsen and King Tirilpachen. They were all destroyed, damaged. Then in 11th century AD, out of 300 years, one of the descendants of the Tibetan kings, Lama and his nephew, Lama Changju, 2 of them saw the need to revive Buddhism in Tibet, particularly the uncle, Lama. So he put effort to do some kind of fundraising. In those days, fundraising was more like gathering gold to be taken to India to invite scholars and masters from India. So he put a lot of effort, and unfortunately, the uncle, he was arrested, knowing that in those days the border, it was not too strict, you can freely go, but the king, the neighboring king, he was so unhappy with Buddhism that he knew that this uncle, the descendant of the Tibetan king, he was there, and that king of the neighboring kingdom, he was so unhappy, and he arrested the Tibetan, the king's descendant, Lama. He arrested him, and Lama Changju, his nephew, he came to know that his uncle was arrested. So he went there to meet the uncle and told the uncle that I could have easily invaded a war, create a war, wage a war against this king who arrested you, but you would be very unhappy if I do that. If I wage war against this king, you will be very unhappy because that your mind is very spiritual and you don't want killings to happen. So because of your, as per your intention, I'm not going to wage a war, but I'm going to still do something to give some ransom to release you. And then he collected the gold, and he got enough gold as demanded by the other king as ransom to release his uncle. And then he again went to his uncle to report about the situation, and the uncle said that you were brought up as a young boy, as a royal child, and I was not at all expecting that you could take this amount of responsibility. Now I can see that you are taking so much responsibility. In fact, there is no need for me. You can take the responsibility. What you do is that don't give even a piece of gold to this king. And even if I am released, you by paying the ransom, but I can't do any. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a master in the Buddhist teachings, and I can't do anything. And also, I'm old. At the most, I live for another 10 years. So there's no point in giving this huge amount of gold to this king. No point. And instead, take this gold with you to India and invite Lama Atisha Dipangarishiriyana, the author of this text which we are reading now. And then this nephew, he had to listen to his uncle. And then, okay, so to cut the story short, so finally that they put up how to go to India, who to send there to India, who will take charge. And there was one great scholar, translator by the name Nakso Lotsawa. Lotsawa in Tibetan, Lotchawa in Sanskrit, and in Tibetan we read it as Lotsawa. And this Nakso Lotsawa, he's a Tibetan, but he went through India already and learned Sanskrit, Hindi, Dharma. And then this Tibetan descendant of the Tibetan king, the Changju, Lama Changju, the nephew, he invited Nakso Lotsawa, the translator, and he put him on a very high throne, and then made prostrations. Usually he's the king, and Nakso Lotsawa was just ordinary person, a scholar. And yet he made prostration to Nakso Lotsawa, although he is a descendant of the king. And then he made the request that now you have to take the responsibility to go to India to invite Lama Atisha Dipangarishiriyana. And Nakso Lotsawa, in those days, no aeroplane, no train, no cars, nothing. So you have to carry even the food that you have to, on the way, the rations you have to carry. And then the robbers are on the way, waiting to attack you. And the wild animals are there, and extremely scary rivers are there, flood can happen, all this the translator, just thinking of these, what he went through in the past. Think of this, he said, no way, I cannot go to India. Not because, and of course, once you are there, the weather, very hot in comparison with Tibet, Nalanda. He said, no way. And then the Tibetan king, again, he said that, I'm the king, you are my subject, but I'm making prostration to you, not for anything else, because of my respect for the Dharma. So, and I'm not a scholar. You know Dharma, you know the value of Dharma, and I'm somebody who is totally illiterate in Dharma. taking the responsibility. And you should take even more responsibility because you know the value of Dharma. You know how much Dharma can benefit the beings. You should take the responsibility. And then the Lama Chanju, he cried that I'm doing this for Dharma, not for myself. And then the Naksulas of the translator, he would accept. And then the whole group was created to go with him, and the whole gold, everything was sent with him. And then on the way, of course, the way was very difficult, extremely difficult, and extremely difficult. Those who came to Thosamling from Delhi by bus, how many came? Well, how was that? Very beautiful? Not beautiful, right? Not beautiful. Okay, so in those days, even no bus, right? And the robbers are waiting for you. Right? And on the way, these are very interesting anecdotes. We have to know these stories. On the way, at one point, and there were no inns, no restaurants, no guest houses, nothing. So you have to stop by wherever you feel tired, and then you start a fire, then prepare some tea, food, whatever. And then the night, you have to sleep there, right? And what comes, we don't know. Wild animal comes, robbers comes, we don't know. And they were all sleeping. And suddenly, a man come said that, how dare that you sleep in my property, right? No property, it was just like a forest, wilderness. And someone said, how dare that you come on my property, you sleep on my property. You are not allowed, you have to get out. And they were so confused. In a wilderness, how come there's someone claiming for his property, saying that we're not allowed to even sleep there just for one night, we're not possessing the property. So they had to run. And then as they move, they have to cross a river. In the midnight, there was a boat there, a boatman was there. Very funny. And boatman was ready. And the boatman, would you mind taking us to the other shore? Okay, yes, come. So he must have got some gold coins, whatever. And the boatman, while he was rowing the boat, he was just reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. And they were so confused. How come they're in the middle of the night? Nowhere there's a boatman and rowing us to the other side. They escaped. Then finally they came to India and Nalanda. And Nalanda, there was elderly man came, and they look very different with the fur, animal skin, fur, clothes. And where are you from? We are from Tibet. What for you have come? We came here to invite Lama Adhisha to Tibet. And the elderly Indian said that Tibetans, their throat doesn't have knot. You're getting a knot. Knot means if the throat is knot, you cannot speak anything that you like, right? So if there is no knot, then whatever is inside will come out. Your secrets will come out. What's the secret? Inviting Lama Adhisha. Why there's a secret? Because that in India, in Nalanda, at that point, Lama Adhisha was revered as the top-ranking scholar and master. And no scholar wanted to send him away out of India. So now they came here to invite Lama Adhisha to Tibet. So the elder Indian man said that Tibetans, they don't have a knot at their throat. And he disappeared, vanished. This elder man vanished. And then in the Narendra veranda, one of the places there, veranda, again they were so naively going there, right? And a young monk came, very young monk came. And with a great amusement, the young man asked, hey, where did you come from? Very different. We came from Tibet. What way have you come? We came to invite Lama Adhisha. The boy said the same thing, that Tibetans, they don't have knot at their throat. He disappeared, he vanished. Okay. So, in fact, Lama Adisha Dipankara Shirikana, later on, coming to Tibet, there was one student by the name Dumdun Gyewe June. Dumdun Gyewe June, he is being respected or revered as the reincarnation, emanation of Arya Avalokiteshvara. And he was already in Tibet. And in a way, he was actually sending his emanations to make sure that this party reached India safely. So, on this place, that place where that person said, you cannot stay in my property. That person was actually Tumdui Gyewechung's emanation. That this was a place frequented by burglars and robbers. So he was protecting them, telling them not to stay here, but it's so like saying that it's my property, you are not allowed to stay here. And somebody's waiting in the boatman in the midnight. It was the emanation of Tumdui Gyewechung. Emanation Tumdui Gyewechung and recite Om Mani Padme Hum, right? Om Mani Padme is mantra of Arya Avalokiteshvara, right? And the emanation, the elderly man and the young boy, both are emanation of Tumdui Gyewechung, telling him, keep secret, know how to keep secret, right? Tibetans, they don't have knot at the throat, which means that know how to keep the secrets. Otherwise, you will not succeed the purpose of coming there. And then, so now they have to keep things secret. So they were not disclosing what they do, right? So they were growing out Nalanda. And then at one point, Nakso Lozawa, the team leader, the translator, he was sitting there and he knew Sanskrit. And he recites Heart Sutra in Sanskrit. And he was sitting there reciting Heart Sutra in Sanskrit. And all the monks, they were passing by. All the monks, one by one, they were passing by. And after a while, only one monk stopped. And seeing him very different, the monk admired that you read Sanskrit so well. But he corrected, the monk corrected some mistakes in his recitation. That monk corrected, did some correction, and then he left. And then all these days, they could not even identify who Lama Adisha was. They could not identify, because they have to keep secret. So they could not even identify who Lama Adisha. They were not getting any clue who the Lama Adisha was. And then this Nakso, he became so desperate. He thought that in case if I cannot identify Lama Adisha, it doesn't matter. I'll at least invite this monk, because he's a scholar. I can see that he's a scholar and he's very compassionate. He knew that where I'm going wrong, and compassionately he corrected me. So I'll invite him, that's good enough. I'll invite him to Tibet. Later on, that happened to be Lama Adisha. Alright? Okay. Then so still they had no clue who Lama Adisha was. So one day, again they were there in the congregation of the monks. And all the monks were there, like thousands of monks were there, all sitting down. And then one senior monk came, and all the monks, as a sign of respect, they were all bowing down, all sitting down by bowing down. And the senior monk took his seat. And then they were asking this Naksula Sawa and the team, they were asking the other monks, is this Lama Adisha? They said, no. Who is he? They said, Lama Metipa. They were all this big, the figures were there, great masters were there. Then after a while, again another came. Again, all the monks were giving so much respect. Who is this? This is Lama Adisha. They would say, no, who is this? This is the great master Naropa. All these great masters came one by one, and they could not identify who the Lama Adisha was. Finally, a senior monk came with a bunch of keys. It's a bunch of keys. So the monks, whether you're a scholar, not a scholar, it doesn't matter. You have to take turn to become custodian or treasurer or whatever. They're responsible. The head of the kitchen. So no exception, right? So at that point, Lama Adisha was the head of the kitchen or some responsible with so much keys there. So he came, and all the monks again. Then they identified Lama Tisha. So then they met Lama Tisha secretly one night. Then Lama Tisha said, okay. Then Lama Tisha said that for an Indian scholar to come to Tibet, there are two aspirations. One is for the Dharma. And I don't think that I coming to Tibet can be of any service to Dharma, number one. Number two, to do some fundraisings, right? So in those days, Tibet is considered by the Indian scholars as a place where you can do fundraising, right? Gold, silver, all these things were more plentiful there. And the Tibetans are very devoted. So when the masters come, they just give you gold, right? So they see that as a place of fundraising. But I don't have any desire for such gold and so forth. So there's no reason why I should go to Tibet. But, he said, but, listen to what you said, I can see that Lama Yeshu, the uncle who passed away, Lama Yeshu, he's a great bodhisattva. And if I don't go, he gave up his life for Dharma. And he's a great bodhisattva. If I don't go to Tibet, I will commit a negative karma of breaching the advice of a great bodhisattva. Number one. Then number two, saying that, seeing you the people, you the Tibetan, I can see that you are so dedicated, committed to Dharma. So because of this, I can see what the Tibetans, the rest of the Tibetans in Tibetan plateau, is like. Very dedicated to Dharma, so pure. So I feel obligation to come for these two reasons. Number one is what for Lama Yeshu. Lama Yeshu described as a great bodhisattva. If I don't go, I commit a negative karma of breaching the advice of the bodhisattva. Then one time, Lama Yeshu, some of you must be been to Bodh Gaya, the main temple. So Lama Yeshu he was circumambulating around the main temple, right? You have circumambulated. How many you been there? Raise hands. Good. So those who have not been there, you go there and see that this is a place where Lama Yeshu and all these great masters. Then Lama Yeshu around the same time when the Tibetans were inviting him to Tibet, and he was a little confused to go, not go. He was circumambulating the main temple. And then he could hear a girl's anklet, sound of the anklets. The anklets meaning the what? A pile, right? What is that like? They make the sound. So from the sound you can figure out that there's a girl, coming. And Lama Yeshu, he did not pay any attention to who was behind him. And the girl said that, Atisha, you don't even want to look at your mother. Oh, who is that? He turned and it was Aryatara. Aryatara, the female Buddha, right? Female Buddha. And then of course he apologized, and then he brought the matter to Aryatara. So this is a situation, what should I do? Should I go or not go? Then Aryatara made a prophecy right there to him, saying that you must go. By going there, of course, demerit is there. Your life will be shortened for whatever reason. Your life will be shortened. But this we can clear the obstacles by you performing this. That gave some mantra by Aryatara to be recited for him to clear the obstacles. And also if you go there, this will be great service to the Dharma. And then you will meet with your student, who was your student for many lifetimes. You will also meet him there. Upasaka. Upasaka means lay practitioner. Lay male practitioner, Upasaka. You will also meet your student many lifetimes. You will also meet him there. So with this commitment, advice given by Aratara, Lama Disha decided to go. Okay, so then the Lama Disha's mentor meaning when he was little, there used to be a mentor. All the monks, they should have a mentor. So his mentor was also a big scholar, and Lama Disha became the top scholar there. And this mentor was not ready to send Lama Disha to Tibet, because Lama Disha was a great asset in India. And finally, the mentor accepted and said that you can keep Lama Disha in Tibet for 3 years, not more. Right? And they also received teachings from Lama Disha's mentor also. You can keep Lama Disha there in Tibet for only 3 years. After 3 years, he must be back to India. So you have to make promise. They all promised. So they left. Then after they sent, who was that teacher? Who was that student? Many lifetimes student of Lama Disha. Domduen Gyebe June, the one who was sending the emanations to protect this team, to invite Lama Disha. And Lama Disha, he was there already for several months. Still no one who he saw as a strongly karmically connected disciple. Not seeing anybody. Aryatara can never be mistaken, right? Can never be mistaken. But she made this prophecy, but I don't see anyone who is my many lifetime a student. And then very soon, Tumde Gyebe appeared, came. And then from that day onwards, two of them never separated. So always Lama Disha sleep on the bed, Tumde Gyebe sleeping on the floor. Always. And Tumde Gyebe always burning a lamp. Just say, if you sleep lie down like this, so that just at the top, he always light a lamp as offering to his teacher, Lama Disha. Then 3 years passed. What do you do? Now, amongst the Tibetans, it split into 2 groups. One who said that, no, Lama Disha, we so much benefit to Dharma in Tibet, so no need to go to India. And those who made the promise in India, no, Lama Disha, please, we have to return. You have to return. So the team split in 2. And then Lama Disha was actually going there, closer towards Nepal, to cross Nepal, to go to India. And then, unfortunately, in Nepal, again there was a war happening. War in those days, that was so common feature. Wars happening. And then the Lama Disha, what do you do now? There's a war. Then the team, Naksulu Sawa, the translator, and his team, who made the promise, who said that no matter whatever is happening, Lama Disha, you have to return. Because we made the promise to your mentor, we have to go to India. Then the other team said, no, there's war happening, how can you go? Right? So Lama Disha made the decision. He said that under a special situation, circumstances, there's always exception. You don't have to worry, I don't have to go. Then he composed this text. This text, short text, which we're going to read. He composed this, and he sent it to India through a messenger. And this text came there to India, and all the scholars, they started to read this, and they see that this text is very special in ways that special or very different from the regular Indian the treatises. Regular Indian masters' treatises, they are all in the form of dialectical debate form, nothing very straightforward, right? So this text is extremely straightforward. You don't see any debate, argument, nothing there. Very straightforward, like what is that? Spoon fitting, right? You do this A, then B, C. Extremely easy way of practicing. And the Indian masters, they read this, and those, wow, we have never come up with such a text. It's only because of otherwise Lama Disha will never compose such a text if he's in India. He composed this because he was in Tibet, and this text is so precious. We never saw such a style of composition, and the meanings are so rich, and he will never compose this if he is here in India. Because he's been in Tibet, he composed this. So we're so grateful to the Tibetans. So the mentor said that now you can keep him any number of years. So Lama Adisha, he passed away in Tibet. Yeah. So this is the anecdote. So with this, in fact, another connected to this is very interesting. The past, the anecdotes. I don't think you will hear these things otherwise. Lama, how many of you heard about the great master Naropa? Good, many of you heard it. Naropa is amazing. Again, Naropa was senior to Lama Adisha. He was way senior, perhaps like 20-30 years senior to Lama Adisha. When Lama Adisha was at the peak, Naropa was already when Lama Adisha maybe age 40s, Naropa maybe like age 60s. So the master Naropa, his student, Joseph Marpa from Tibet, came to receive teachings from. All these anecdotes are very interesting. So to cut it short, Joseph Marpa came to us around the same time, because Lama Adisha and Lama Naropa, they are like, say, contemporaries. They only say there's a difference of like maybe a decade, 10 years or 15 years like this. Then Joseph Marpa from Tibet came to India to learn from Lama Naropa. And when Joseph Marpa was coming down, Lama Adisha was going to Tibet. So two of them met on the way. Okay, so that keeping aside, then when Joseph, I think, oh no, it was not that time. It was before Adisha. It was during the second visit of Joseph Marpa. So Joseph Naropa, Joseph Marpa's teacher. Joseph Marpa was like remaining as a personal attendant of Joseph Naropa. And then a monk came. Because Joseph Naropa was very senior, top scholar. A monk came, and Joseph Marpa, he was a lay person, very young. And then seeing how the monk, he could see that this is a very special monk. And Joseph Naropa, his teacher, also treated him very differently. Was, of course, junior, but he was treating him very differently. And then later on, he came to realize it was Lama Adisha. Then another monk came. Other monk came to visit the Lama Naropa, Joseph Naropa. Then when the other monk came, even Joseph Naropa, who was so respected, even he was little, like there's a tinge you can see from his body language that this monk scholar is very different. Even Lama Naropa, he was also little, careful, nice, right? This little formality was there. And then the Marpa, the student, oh, this monk must be extremely, extremely learned. I can see my teacher's body language. Then Marpa, the student, he say with the understanding, he start to leave the room. So two of them have a personal conversation. Then Joseph Naropa said, No, you sit. No need, don't worry. He said, the Venerable came here to discuss on Shri Guya Samaja. It's like king of Tantra. He came to discuss with me on Shri Guya Samaja. Then, because Joseph Naropa was also to receive teachings on Shri Guya Samaja. So you sit and just listen what we are discussing. Then after this discussion, of course, for formality, the student, Joseph Marpa, he then escorted the monk out. And then on the way, he asked the Indian master, Venerable Sir, where are you heading now? He said that, I want to go to Vedeshan. Vedeshan is the sacred place, the holy place related to Arya Manjushri in China. I want to go to Vedeshan through Tibet, right? And then Joseph Marpa, he was just a very young man, but with so much karmic connection with Dharma. Came all the way from India, to Tibet, from Tibet to learn from India. And wow, he is such incredibly great learned master in Sri Guru Samaja, who even my teacher respected. So if he goes to Tibet, to China, for sure he will go through Tibet, and in Tibet he will teach Sri Guru Samaja. Then when I go to in Tibet, I will have nothing to teach because he's already there. He will teach, right? So he felt it like this. Of course, he did not say anything. Then this teacher, this Indian master, he went to Tibet to go to Vedeshan. In Tibet, I think it was Guru Lozawa, not Nakso Lozawa. There was another very famous teacher, Guru Lozawa, who was also expert in Sri Guru Samaja Tantra. Guru Lozawa was giving teaching his students. And then this teacher, Indian master, he happened to pass by this group, and then Guru Lozawa, because he is extremely learned in Sanskrit and Buddhism, and the Indian monk passed by. He asked, "Hey, the monk, where are you going?" This teacher, the Tibetan teacher, Tibetans, they are a little arrogant. So he said, "Hey, the monk, where are you going?" Then this monk said that, "I'm going to Vedeshan for pilgrimage." And then this Tibetan master, he said something so bad. What he said was that, "I couldn't control my laughter to see an Indian Pandit." Pandit meaning like a scholar, right? Huh? No, Pandit, real meaning is the Pandita, is a scholar. But now every word priest is called as Pandit, right? So the Pandit value is gone. Now Pandit means a priest. Actually it is a scholar. So he said that in Sanskrit, he said that, "I could not control my laughter to see an Indian Pandit walking barefooted to come to Tibet to look for gold." He said that. And then the Indian master, he did not say anything. He just continued so. And then suddenly, this teacher, Tibetan teacher, suddenly a thought came to him. Out of curiosity, he said, "Hey monk, wait. Tell me, by the way, do you know, by any chance, do you know the great master Acharya Akaras, the Akarasiddhi? By any chance, do you know the great master Acharya Akarasiddhi?" And he said, "People call me with this name." People call me with this name. Then the Tibetan master jumped up and made prostrations to him. Because he was teaching Sri Guru Samaja Tantra, and he knows that in India, this master, Sri Akarasiddhi, he was the top Sri Guru Samaja Tantra master. He jumped and made prostrations and requested for teachings. Then Acharya Akarasiddhi, he gave teachings to him and his students. Then after that, Acharya Akarasiddhi said that, "Okay, now I don't have to go to China anymore. Now I will go back. I'll return to India." So then the Tibetan, now his student, Guru Lozawa, he offered huge amount of gold, silver, all these things. And the Indian masters, they're also mischievous. He said that, "I cannot control the laughter of an Indian Pandit walking barefooted coming to Tibet to collect gold." He said it. He repeated what he said. And the student, he cried, I'm very sorry. I did not identify who you are. I'm very sorry. Now I'm your student. And I know that you don't want any gold. But for me and my students accumulate merit, please accept this. And then finally he picked up just one piece, saying that, okay, as you said, for you and your students accumulate merit, I will take one. He took one and then he left. Then he came there, Nalanda, India. And then again, Jesus Marpa was still there with Jesus Naropa. Then Jesus Marpa met Jesus Marpa, and the great Saint Agarsiddhi, this Indian master, he told Jesus Marpa that I have not disturbed your students in Tibet. But Jesus Marpa was shocked. How come they hear at my mind? I did not disturb your students, meaning that I did not teach Sri Guru Samaj too much in Tibet. You can go, still you can teach. You're getting it? Wow, these are the amazing anecdotes. Okay, good. Page 131. Page 131. Okay, so once you know the background, and this text is so precious, the Lamp of the Path of Enlightenment, Bodhicitta Pratipa, by Acharya Adisha Dipankara Shrigyana Lama Disha. And you remember the teaching that we got, so Bodhicitta practice, which we inherited from Lama Selingbar in Indonesia. Then Lama Adisha, author of this text, Lama Adisha, he went to Indonesia to get this teaching. He brought it to India. Then he brought it to Tibet. So this is how we got this whole genre of teachings on Bodhicitta. Okay, and this text is something which is being considered as the preamble, like the constitution, like the preamble of all the teachings of the different traditions of Tibet. Sakya, Kagyu, Nyingma, Gedu, all consider this as like the preamble, the main standard text on the basis of which then all their commentaries are being used in their different traditions. Okay, so let's read this together. So meanwhile, try to understand meaning. Okay, and for information, the thing is that so as I said earlier, it was taught like A, B, C, D, not in a form of dialectical, no debate, arguments, nothing. Just A, B, C, D, which means that in a progressive way. So how he let us, how the author, Lama Adisha, let us from the very beginner level to the next level to the third level. All these levels are the broken down into three groups. Teachings meant for the small scope person, teachings meant for the middle scope person, teachings meant for the great scope person. This is known as the Lamrim teaching. So this text is the source, the main source of the Lamrim teachings. All the Lamrim teachings that are available in Sakya, Kagyu, Nyingma, Gelug, they all coming from this source. And here you can see the demarcation that he laid in a very progressive way. The teaching was given. Okay, good. We read together. Homage to the Bodhisattva, a youthful Manjushri. I pay homage with great respect to all the victorious ones of the three times. Victorious mean the Buddhas of the three times, to their teaching and to those who aspire to virtue, urged by the noble disciple Changchubu. Okay, Changchubu is the nephew. Yishu is the uncle. Changchubu, I shall illuminate the lamp for the path of enlightenment. Understand there are three kinds of persons. Because of their small, middling, and the supreme capacities, I shall write clearly distinguishing their individual characteristics. Note that those who, by whatever means, seek for themselves no more than the pleasure of cyclic existence are persons of least capacity. Those who seek peace for themselves alone, turning away from unworldly pleasures and avoiding destructive actions, are said to be the middling capacity. Those who, through their personal suffering, truly want to end completely all the sufferings of others are persons of supreme capacity. For those excellent living beings who desire supreme enlightenment, I shall explain the perfect methods taught by the spiritual teachers. Facing paintings, statues, and so forth of the complete enlightened one, reliquaries and excellent teaching, offer flowers, incense, whatever you have, with a seven-part offering from the prayer of noble conduct, and with a thought never to turn back till you ultimate enlightenment, with a strong faith in the truthful gem, kneeling with one knee on the ground and your hands pressed together, first of all take refuge 3 times. Next, beginning with an attitude of love for all living creatures, consider beings, excluding none, suffering in the 3 bad rebirths, suffering such as birth, death, and so forth. Then, since you want to be free these beings from the suffering of pains, from suffering and the cause of suffering, arouse immediately the resolve to attain enlightenment. The qualities of developing such aspiration are fully explained by Maitreya in the area of the Trunk Sutra. Having learned about the infinite benefits of the intention to gain full enlightenment, by reading this sutra or listening to a teacher, arouse it repeatedly to make it steadfast. The sutra requested by Viruddhada fully explains the merit therein. At this point, in summary, I'll cite just 3 verses. If it possessed physical form, the merit of the altruistic intention would completely fill the whole of space and exceed even that. If someone were to fill with jewels as many Buddha fills as there are grains of sand in the Ganges to offer to the protector of the world, this would be surpassed by the gift of folding one's hands and inclining one's mind to enlightenment, for such is limitless. Having developed the aspiration for enlightenment, constantly enhance it through concerted effort to remember it in this and also in other lives. Give the precepts properly as explained. Without the vow of the engaged intention, perfect aspiration will not grow. Make effort definitely to take it, since you want the wish for enlightenment to grow. Those who maintain any of the 7 kinds of the individual liberation vows have the ideal prerequisites for the Bodhisattva vows, not others. The Tathagata spoke of 7 kinds of individual liberation vows. The best of these is glorious pure conduct, said to be the vow of a fully ordained person, according to the ritual described in the chapter on discipline in the Bodhisattva stages. Take the vow from a good and well-qualified spiritual teacher. Understand that a good spiritual teacher is one skilled in the vow ceremony, who lives by the vow and has the confidence and compassion to bestow it. However, in case you try but cannot find such a spiritual teacher, I shall explain another correct procedure for taking the vow. I shall write here very clearly, as explained in the ornament of Manjushri's Buddha and Sutra. How long ago, when Manjushri was Sambharaja, he aroused the intention to become enlightened. In the presence of all the protectors, I aroused the intention to gain full enlightenment. And when all the beings as my guests, I shall free them from single existence. From this moment onwards, until I attain enlightenment, I shall not harbor harmful thoughts, anger, avarice, or envy. I shall cultivate pure conduct, give up wrongdoing desire, and with joy in the vow of discipline, train myself to follow the Buddhas. I shall not be eager to reach enlightenment in the quickest way, but shall stay behind till the very end for the sake of even a single being. I shall purify limitless inconceivable lands and remain in the 10 directions for all those who call my name. I shall purify all my bodily and verbal forms of activity, and my mental activities too I shall purify, and do nothing that is non-virtuous. When those observing the vow of the active altruistic intention have trained well in the 3 forms of discipline, their respect for the 3 forms of discipline grows, which causes purity of body, speech, and mind. Therefore, through effort in the vow made by Bodhisattva for pure full enlightenment, the collection for complete enlightenment will be thoroughly accomplished. All Buddhas say the cause for the completion of the collection, whose nature is merit and exalted wisdom, is the development of higher perceptions. Just as a bird with undeveloped wings cannot fly in the sky, those without the power of high perception cannot work for the good of living beings. The merit gained in a single day by one who possesses the higher perceptions cannot be gained even in 100 lifetimes by one without such high perceptions. Those who want swiftly to complete the collection for full enlightenment will accomplish high perception through effort, not through laziness. Without the attainment of calm abiding, high perceptions will not occur. Therefore, make a repeated effort to accomplish calm abiding. While the conditions for calm abiding are incompleted, meditative stabilization will not be accomplished, even if one meditates strenuously for 1,000 of years. Thus, maintaining well the conditions mentioned in the collection of meditative stabilization chapter, place the mind on any one virtuous focal object. When a practitioner has gained calm abiding, higher perceptions will also be gained. But without practice of the perfection of wisdom, obstructions will not come to an end. Thus, to eliminate obstructions, to liberation and omniscience, so that obstruction to liberation is afflictive obscurations. Obstruction omniscience is cognitive obscurations. The practitioner should continually cultivate the perfection of wisdom and skillful means. Wisdom without skillful means and skillful means too without wisdom are referred to as bondage. Therefore, do not give up either. To eliminate doubts concerning what is wisdom and what skillful means are, I shall make clear the difference between skillful means and wisdom. Apart from the perfection of wisdom, all virtuous practices such as perfection of giving are described as skillful means by the victorious ones. Whoever, under the influence of familiarity with skillful means, cultivate wisdom, will quickly attain enlightenment, not just by meditating on selflessness. Understanding emptiness of inherent existence through realizing the aggregate's constituents and resources are not produced is described as wisdom. Something existent cannot be produced, nor something non-existent like a sky flower. These errors are both absurd, and thus both will not occur either. A thing is not produced from itself, nor from another, also not from both, nor causelessly either. Thus, it does not exist inherently by way of its own entity. Moreover, when all phenomena are examined as to whether they are one or many, not intrinsically one, not intrinsically different, not a many, they are not seen to exist by way of their own entity, and thus are ascertained as not inherently existent. The reasoning of the 70 stanzas on emptiness, the treatise on the middle way, and so forth, explain that the nature of all things is established as emptiness. Since there are a great many passages, I have not cited them here, but have explained just the conclusions for the purpose of meditation. Thus, whatever is meditation on selflessness, but not observing an inherent nature in phenomena, is the cultivation of wisdom. Just as wisdom does not see an inherent nature in phenomena, having analyzed wisdom itself by reasoning, meditate on that non-conceptually. The nature of this worldly existence, which has come from conceptualization, is conceptuality. Thus, the elimination of conceptuality is the highest state of nirvana. That the great ignorance of conceptuality makes us fall into the ocean of cyclic existence, resting in non-conceptual civilization, space-like non-conceptuality manifests clearly. When bodhisattvas non-conceptually contemplate this excellent teaching, they will transcend conceptuality, so hard to overcome, and eventually reach the non-conceptual state. Okay, we'll stop here for reading. Okay, we'll continue reading in the next session. Next session means tomorrow morning. Okay, I think it is good for us to be introduced to the first method of Boddhicitta, which is sevenfold cause and effect. Huh? Yes. Yes. Jesongpa's one is very popular, Lamrim, and then the Jesongpa actually has 3 versions. The great treatise, middle length, and the short length. There are 3 treatises by Lama Tsongkhapa. Lamrim is the great treatise. Then the other traditions also have their own Lamrim on the basis of this text composed by Lama Desha. For example, like say the Tsapadu Rinpoche, he composed the Words of My Perfect Teacher. Words of My Perfect Teacher. This is a beautiful book. This is so precious. By Tsapadu Rinpoche. And then the Jesun Gampopa, the great Kayu master, he has the liberation, ornament of liberation. Ornament of liberation again is a Lamrim composed by Jigampopa, based on Lama Desha's text. Yeah, many of these texts are there. Yeah, and also Tenrim is there. Tenrim by Tulbuba. A huge text by Tulbuba, great master. Again, it is very similar to Lama Tsongkhapa's text. Tenrim. Yeah. So these are the texts which are based on Lama Desha's text. Good. By who? So you say by Lama Adisha as well, Lama Adisha, yes. Okay, so basically, the thing is that what we said earlier is that both the traditions, they came to Tibet through Lama Adisha. Both the traditions. Lama Adisha, of course, all these things were studied, practiced in India. Not necessarily one is to go to Indonesia. But Lama Adisha, why he felt so connected with Lama Selingpa was that seeing that India was the birthplace of Buddhism, birthplace of this great treasure, and Nalanda. And yet in the island, Indonesian island there, the son of a king who was taking the responsibility to bring these teachings alive in Indonesia, and how much he was struggling to make it available there. So Lama Adisha was really extremely impressed by this, and he thought that I must receive teachings from this teacher. Let's go. It is said that Lama Adisha, his philosophical tradition is Prasangika philosophy. Lama Selingpa's philosophical tradition is the Chittamatra. But Lama Adisha, he revered, philosophically speaking, Lama Adisha's philosophy, of course, he was, the way before he went to Indonesia, he was already top-ranking scholar in India. But out of respect for what this great teacher is doing in Indonesia, so he was so deeply moved to go there, to actually meet the teacher and receive teachings. So it said that Lama Adisha, while he had so many teachers, and philosophically his philosophy, that philosophy that he is, he's expert in Chittamatra and Madhyamaka both. But the Madhyamaka philosophy way is deeper, more profound. And although philosophically speaking, his philosophy is deeper than his own teachers, Lama Selingpa's. But for him, Lama Selingpa is always the most important teacher to him. This is how he revered Lama Selingpa. For him, having taught the Boddhicitta, given the transmissions of the teaching of Boddhicitta. So therefore for him, Lama Adisha, Lama Selingpa was the most important teacher in his life. Although philosophically, he's expert in all tradition, while the Lama Selingpa is only in Chittamatra, not in the Madhyamika. Okay, this is the brief outline. Good. Any more questions? No? Good. Okay. What are the 7 points? First, we have to go through the 7 points. Number one, seeing all beings as mothers. Remembering all beings as one's mothers. Number one. Then remembering the kindness of all the mothers. Then number 3, repaying the kindness of all the mothers. Number 1, remembering all beings as one's mothers. Number 2, remembering the kindness of all the mothers. Number 3, repaying their kindness. March 18, so seeing the beings in the light of great affection. Seeing all the beings in the light of great affection. Seeing beings in the light of great affection. Number 5, great compassion. Number 6, altruism. Number 7, Boddhicitta. Okay. Number 1, remembering all beings as one's mothers. Number 2, remembering their kindness. Number 3, repaying their kindness. Number 4, seeing beings in the light of great affection. Number 5, great compassion. Number 6, altruism. Number 7, Boddhicitta. Okay, so actually you see that all these steps are there in this book. Deliberately I'm saying this for you to put effort. You're getting it? And the way you put effort, it's not about it's in print. Everything's in the book. But this does not help. We need to remember them. When you write, something is registered in your mind. So this will help us. Okay, good. So we see that these 7 steps, they're not difficult. They're not difficult intellectually to know. These 7 steps is very easy. But experientially, it'll take time. To experience them is difficult. It'll take time. For this, we require continuous practice. As I said earlier, theory, practice. What you say they practice, and in real life, try to think of these. See to the relationship with the mother and the children. Okay, what's the first? Remember all beings as one's mothers. Okay, this involves, yes. Okay, so the 7 steps. These are the main. These are the when you speak about the 7-fold cause and effect. These are steps. So there's a preliminary there. So preliminary is like, say, before we build a house. What do you mean? If the land is high at one side, low at the other side, what do? We level it. So likewise, the preliminary is required. That is equalizing the 7 others. You're not like equalizing self and others. This is not the case. As I seeing that your excessive attachment towards some and aversion towards others, your mind is not level in terms of your interaction with other people. So this is very uneven. So make it even by saying that the beings to whom you love in this life, I say in the past lives, these beings, can be my even enemies. So those who are enemies today, in the past lives, they are many times have been my very kind mothers. So if you think from a broader picture in time, we see that all beings are much more the same, right? Same, and then your unevenness in your dealing with the beings will become more leveled, more even. So that is the first one, equalizing all the beings. Okay, equanimity. Then the actual body of the text, the first one, remember all beings as one's mothers. This requires the understanding of the rebirth. So, if one does not have the understanding of rebirth, you find it a little difficult to go through this practice. And so for the rebirth, I'm going to quickly share with you here. Basically, the idea is when we talk about the rebirth, it has nothing to do with your body. It's about your mind. If something travels. So let's talk empirically. Empirically meaning something which we can actually experience. Let's say that we talk about the self, I. So with this I, empirically speaking, what we have is the body and the mind. And on the basis of body, you are determined as male, female, third gender, whatever, the body. And on the basis of the mind, you are happy, not happy, kind, not kind, intelligent, not intelligent. This is all determined, described on the basis of the body, on the basis of mind. In other words, how the empirical world describes you, deals with you, is on the basis of your body and the mind. So, we see self, what we call as self, is in this conventional world, we relate this self, relate to your body and the mind. And the body, we see that when you die, you leave the body. Cremated or buried. So the body is left behind. So if at all something travels to the next life as rebirth, then it should be your mind. So does the mind go to the next birth, to take the next birth? It's this question. For this, to deal with this question, what is required is that we need to think of if the first question is that if this mind, whether or not this is different from the brain and the mind, are these two one or different? If these two are one, finished. The brain dies, the mind dies, mind finishes. And the brain is burned, okay. The brain dies, the mind is gone. Then the brain becomes like an ordinary inanimate object. Finish, you burn it, finished. So, if the brain and mind are one, then the concept, the rebirth becomes meaningless. So, if at all the rebirth is there, then we should be able to see that the brain and mind, these are different. And so, are they different? This question. This is the hard question to many of the psychologists, neuroscientists, and in fact, many of the neuroscientists, they don't even touch this topic, because brain is something tangible, the mind, we call it mind, is not tangible. Okay, now gradually, if the neuroscience is to expand the scope of research to the non-tangible mind, then the rigor will be compromised. Rigor meaning that something quantifiability. Say modern science, the strength of modern science is that it should be quantifiable. Number one. Number two, that the third person should be able to experience what the first person conveys. It should be repeatable. You should be able to repeat it. So, and the third person should be able to see that. So whereas with the mind, which is non-tangible, not physical, it's not visual. So therefore, it's not something, number one, it's not quantifiable. Quantifiable meaning something physical. It's not quantifiable. And what you experience, you cannot replicate it to me. That I cannot replicate it. You're getting it? So what you experience is your experience. Whereas, for example, let's say that, oh, there's a gravity. I've discovered gravity. Newton said, I've discovered gravity. So what is gravity? The force to pull something towards the earth. Okay, is it true? Yes, you try it, right? And then you throw the apple and see whether the apple flies up or it comes down. It comes down. So anybody does it, it's repeatable. You can repeat it. But as your experience of your mind, what you experience, it cannot be repeated by somebody else. You're getting it? So other person, for example, you realize emptiness, and the other person realizes emptiness. This is not grounded on one thing. And the third person cannot say, okay, yeah, now he's experienced emptiness. Now he's also experienced emptiness. No, there's no such thing there. So this is where the rigor of the modern science can disappear, should be compromised. So, and the modern science is marked by the rigor, but at the same time, keep in mind that the reality is very complex. The reality has many layers. One is the evident reality, evident phenomena. Second one is slightly hidden phenomena. Third one is very hidden phenomena. There are three kinds of phenomena is the reality. And science cannot deal with everything. Because some of the realities, they are so obscured. Some are very evident. This is reality. So, physics does not explain neuroscience, right? Physics does not explain neuroscience, but physicists, as an individual person, can take interest in neuroscience. A neuroscientist does not explain the quantum mechanics. It's a very different stream. You're getting it? But the individual neuroscientist can take interest. Some brilliant, for example, I know, say Michio Kaku. He's a brilliant physicist, and he has a multi-skills. He's a physicist. He also studies or he takes interest in neuroscience, and he wrote the book The Future of Mind. Is one of the classics, and he's a physicist. He's not a neuroscientist, but the materials that he wrote there, they are all the materials that he got from his neuroscientist friends. The data, they're all from neuroscientists. So what I'm saying is that individuals can take interest in, but physics per se will not attempt to explain neuroscience. You getting it? Neuroscience per se will not try to attempt explain quantum mechanics. So simply because it's science doesn't mean that it explains everything. Because what is everything? Within everything we see that there are three classes of phenomena. Some which can be quantifiable, some which are not quantifiable. Those which are quantifiable, modern science can touch. Those which are not quantifiable in reality. How should we study that? Modern science cannot touch it. If they touch it, they have to compromise the rigor. But in future, we never know where the science will head towards. During the Newton's time, like 300 years ago, during the Newton's time, the quantum physics was totally unthinkable. Relativity was totally unthinkable. And there was a whole paradigm shift from Newtonian classical physics to quantum physics and relativity theory. There's a whole paradigm shift which is unthinkable in those days. So what is unthinkable today? We never know in future. They may even incorporate mind in quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics, where at the moment they don't really discuss about mind, they talk about the observer and the observed. How the observer and observed, these two are dependent. How the dependent on the observer, observed is explained. Independent observer, observed cannot be explained. You cannot describe what the observed is. So we see that in future, where the science will, in which direction they go, we never know. But at the moment, as of now, this is science. So science has its own area to explore. While the reality is very complex, some are very evident, some are slightly hidden, some are very hidden realities. So, in other words, what I'm saying is that science, while it's a very rigorous system, it does not explain everything. This is what we need to know. For example, physics is a brilliant discipline, but it does not explain neuroscience. You're getting it? Physicists as individuals, in their own individual capacity, they can have multiple interests. That's a different story. But physics as a discipline will not explain how the neurons work. You're getting it? And the neuroscientists, they will not explore what the quantum physics is. It is their job, quantum physicists. Neuroscience is just waste of your time. Neuroscience means neuroscience, how the neurons work to communicate, to explain the workings of the mind. How to look for the neural correlates related to the mental function. So this is a job. So just neuroscience does not explain physics. Physics does not explain neuroscience. Therefore, what I'm saying is that science, although it is a very rigorous system, does not explain everything. Many people are very naive to think that if science doesn't explain, it doesn't exist. This is our naivety. The reality has so many ranges of the reality. Some very simple manifest phenomena to some very intricate, very nuanced and very hidden phenomena. So modern science does not at all touch this area. It's a very hidden phenomena. And also many part of the slightly hidden phenomena also they don't touch. They only touch the manifest phenomena and some part of the slightly hidden phenomena. Okay, this is what we need to keep in mind. So having said this, what is the relationship between the brain and the mind? So the moment we touch the mind by neuroscience, then it has to compromise its rigor. But the reality, there is a mind there. There's reality there, the mind. This mind, is it one with the brain or different from brain? This is to be explored. You're getting it? This is going to be huge. Thus far, I would say that if we study things so well, the best book on the planet Earth today, talking about the mind, is the Acharya Dharmakirti's text. This is the best book. Acharya Dharmakirti's text, Pramana Vartika, chapter 2. This is the best book. And it was written in 7th century AD. This is the best book. And today I wish that there are some scholars who are expert in Acharya Dharmakirti's text, chapter 2, and who are also exposed to the neuroscience, that they should write something. And brilliant scholars. Not just, something and then not really sensible. It must be something extremely concrete to do research on this brain and mind. Okay. So to give a quick idea of in what way these two are different is that we have not seen you. You have not seen your brain. You have not seen your brain, but you know what's going in your mind. Okay, I'm a little disturbed today. I'm very happy today. I'm thinking of my mom today, right? And I miss this food, that food, and so forth. So you can you know what's going in your mind, but you don't know what's going in your brain. Say, you don't know what kind of synaptic connections are created. You don't know what kind of neurotransmitters are transmitted when you're thinking, my mom. Which neurotransmitter transmit? You have no clue. You're getting it? Yet, you know firsthand, by firsthand you know what you're thinking, right? You know it so well. And the neuroscientists can see your brain so well, but they cannot see what you're thinking. So what the neuroscientists can see, which you cannot see, is your brain. What you can experience, which neuroscientists has no clue, that is your mind. This is distinction that we need to remember, number one. Then number two is that the brain per se, if the mind is not there, then the brain becomes like a computer. It's a purely mechanical, without the mind. It's purely mechanical. If that is the case, then there's no difference between the brain and the computer. For the computer, however sophisticated the computer is, the computer requires somebody to operate it. There's no self-operation. We talk about artificial intelligence, right? One day the computers they will operate on their own, they will conquer the human being. This is just illusion. This is just a story created by these brilliant people to scare you, right? They know that this will not happen. But the common people, they will not understand. They think that now the computer is operating on us, right? No. Some brilliant people who don't have the heart, they will control the world. They will control this computer. They will become very sophisticated. They become very sophisticated, and then these people, they know how the computer works. Ordinary people, we don't know. For example, you send money through GPay, Google Pay. You don't know how it operates. We don't know that. It's very gross. It's very gross, done by some software engineers. Some basic software engineers. They designed it, but the brilliant people, they don't even touch these things. They touch something bigger than this. You getting it? So the point is that artificial, purely mechanical things and the mind, there's a difference. Our brain is operated with it operates with the accompaniment of the mind, whereas a computer operates by itself without the mind. Therefore, additional operators required. You getting it? However sophisticated the computer is, it requires additional operator, right? Okay. So these are things, materials that I'm gathering, and each one of us, you can think more in this area. If you really want to know, how can we know rebirth? You're getting it? We need to know these things. And then to see that there's a mind which is different. But the mind, don't follow blindly. Oh, there must be a mind there, different from the brain. No, you must be convinced. It should not be followed blindly. With the blind following, you will never reach to a conviction. Conviction must be built on the basis of empirical understanding and the sound reasoning. These two must be there. Okay. So let me not speak too much on this part. It requires a lot of time. And okay, by the way, in Israel, I don't know whether I shared this here. Did I share this? In Israel, no? Okay. It was 2019. It was in Israel. There was a couple, and the lady wanted me to be to stay with in her house. I shared this here? Yeah. And then this gentleman happened to be a physicist. And he has a national, of course, they're very bright, physicists, they're very bright. And then the leader was insisting me to speak on rebirth, right? And I was tired. So finally the lady said, she became so desperate. Now, Geshe will leave without talking about it, right? Says, he's the one who doesn't believe in rebirth. Okay. So this is these are the things, areas. And then I would say that if you study Acharya Dharmakar, this book, chapter 2, Pramana Vartika, and that too, don't think that you studied it once, oh, now I already studied it. No, these books are the treasures. The more you read, the more you think, more you can unearth, right? There are more things to be dug. More things to be dug. More things to be dug. Okay. The more you go, the more don't feel complacent that, okay, I read the book, I already read chapter 2. No, it doesn't work like this. If you really want to know there's Acharya Dharmakar, these thoughts, you have to study this text over and over again. And gradually you start unearthing what is in there. Okay, so let's say that then I personally would say it's been my personal journey. That when I was 20 years, 19 or 20 years, like this age of this girl, that I left my science, I jumped to philosophy. I joined the monastery, right? I joined the monastery. Actually think of becoming a physicist. And then I left and jumped to monastery to study philosophy. How? Taking for granted that, oh, the system that I'm brought up in the Buddhist community, but the Buddhism, Buddha, what they taught must be true, rebirth must be there, taken for granted. So I should prepare for my next life. So physics may not help me in my next life, but Buddhist philosophy will help me. So I moved to the philosophy. And then, say my teacher, who was also a principal, Venerable Geshe Dorje, he was the principal of the institute, IBD. Anybody who went there? IBD, Institute of Buddhist Dialectics? Yes. Okay. There, my teacher was very open-minded, although he did not have any modern education. So he invited one lady doctor to give a talk on brain, workings of the brain, to his monk students. He's very open-minded. And the lady doctor, and my teacher also appointed me as the translator. Because the lady, American lady doctor, she will speak in English, and the monks, most of them did not speak English. So I was asked to be the translator. And as the translator, I was listening to what the doctor said very carefully. And she was talking about extremely talking about the intricacies of how the brain works. Of the synaptic connections, neurotransmitters, different parts of the brain, emotions, which part of the brain is related to the cognition, the sensory cognition, which part of the brain related to the emotions, memories. I was so amazed because the brain that I learned in school when I was in class 11, age 17 or 18, when I was in the brain that I learned is very simple. Cortex, cerebrum, just some very simple, that's it. And I learned about the neurotransmitters, but this lady explaining great detail how the emotions, neural correlates, is what she was trying to explain. I was so amazed. And that night I did not have sleep because that I was so amazed by the workings of the brain. If this is how the brain works, where is the mind? If there's no mind, why did I jump to philosophy? Right? What happened? I became crazy, right? Then I did not tell anybody. Mentally, I decided, okay, now Dorji, just forget that. Don't think that you are a Buddhist. Just start clean slate, right? Don't take for granted that rebirth is there. Start clean slate to see, very objectively study and see if there is rebirth, where there's a mind different from the brain, and the brain dies, but the mind continues its journey. Embark on this journey. So this was my journey since I was age 19. You getting it? So now already 36 years passed, right? It was one of the most beautiful journey, extremely interesting journey, because of this what drove me, gave me like a shock. It was a great blessing for me that every time I was reading some materials, listening to a neuroscientist, or listening to some experiences, my mind automatically tries to correlate brain-mind function. That's a very beautiful journey. Okay, so keeping that aside, now quickly. Okay, so first remember all beings as one's mother. So you're getting it? And also think about how the imprints work. How the imprint, for example, like what the child prodigy. What do you call it? The child prodigy. Child prodigy meaning as a 4 years old boy, 4 years old girl, the music that they compose, unbelievable. Like Mozart. Mozart, I think he started like age 4 or 5. He started to compose his own the music. Right, Mozart. So this genius, where did this brilliance came from? Where? Okay, not from the previous mind, from the brain. Brain where? Which part of the brain? Then you go into the genes, right? And gene, which means a gene from the past, the parents, not from may not be from this parent, maybe the grandparents. Grandparents, if you track what do you call it, genealogy. Right, the ancestors, you track it, you will never see that there was another. It was just 0.3 million years, 0.3 million years that human beings exist on this planet Earth. 0.3 million, 300,000 years. Go back in time, closer. Go back to 0.3 million years ago. More gross the genes were. Right, genes did not get this opportunity to compose Mozart music. Right, you go back, more crude. So where did this gene come from? It's not purely gene. There's something different which came from the past life. Right, so that is mind. Okay. And then another point, very important point, is that which happened in Israel during this conference, whether it was conference convened by a neuroscientist, a very senior neuroscientist. And with his colleagues, younger neuroscientists were there, and also psychologists were brought, and some physicists also there, some great historians were also there. It was a very rigorous the conference, and I would say that out of all the numbers of conferences that I attended, I truly appreciate this conference the most, because interactions was very direct. There's no beating around the bush. Very direct. Question that you have, you just hit head on. And that person, if you cannot give the answer, again the next question. Right? So one lady neuroscientist was talking about from neuroscience point of view. And suddenly somehow she mentioned about the free will. Free will. And then after the talk, then the barrages of questions came to her. If it is purely brain, brain is purely mechanical phenomena. With a mechanical phenomenon, there's no room for free will. Mechanical is purely cause and effect. Whereas a purely cause and effect, there's no room for free will. But we see in the world, we see free will is what determines the world. And where is the free will? How do you explain this according to neuroscience? And the lady was trying to explain it. More questions come, she got stuck. She couldn't explain. Because it is purely, they say that if the workings of the mind is fully reduced to brain, taking the reductionist approach, then how do you explain the free will? Could not explain it. So free will cannot be explained if you believe in a reductionist approach, reducing the mind to the brain. You cannot explain free will. Okay. So these are the areas that we need to explore and gradually try to come together, that there's something which is operating, and say what makes the individuals different from each other. Then you come to know that there is what is known as the mind, which came from the previous life. And then supported by Acharya Dharmagirdi's text, the workings of the mind, nature of the mind, explaining this. And you can also meditate on what the mind is like. You can meditate single point just on the mind to see what your mind is like. Once you see that, it becomes very clear that you're thinking, all these things come from the previous thinking. Previous thinking come from previous thinking. You go like this, and the first moment in the mother's womb, thinking came from the previous. That is your former life. Very easy. Okay. So with this, let's say the first one, that is remember all beings as one's mothers. If you come to get some idea that without rebirth you cannot, there are many things which cannot be explained. So with this, then you see that in this life you're from mother, which is so important. But the Buddha made it very clear that practicing bodhicitta on the basis of this method, sinful cause and effect, it's not necessary that you have to see all the beings as one's mothers. If you have difficulty with your mother, and whereas if you feel comfortable with your brother, father, sister, or your teacher, and so forth, the Buddha said that you remember others as your mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, or say your teachers, and so forth. So this is what the Buddha said. Whereas here, for the ease of most of the people, the one that you can remember as somebody who's closest to you is the mother. For most of the people. For those people who find it very difficult with the mother, you can move it to something else, who you see as genuinely loving and caring, no matter what happens to you. You can relate that with that person. Okay, so we see that in this life, related to the mother, in this life you're the mother. And in the former life also, you have mother, unless you took birth in the formless realm. In the formless realm, there's no physical form. So therefore you do not need mother. And in the form realm also, you do not need mother. It is like a miraculous birth. Then in the desire realm, the god and goddess realm, in the desire realm, there is like a namesake mother. Namesake mother, not as a real mother. But in human realm, and in the desire realm, human realm, then in the animals we see that the mothers play a very important role. Okay, so for that matter, you know, if you have the mother in this life, then in the former life, in the previous life also you have a mother. You just go back, previous. How many previous? No beginning, which means infinitely great number of mothers. So where all these mothers, all the beings around us, these are the beings who have been your mothers. Not only once, but so many times. Because the time that we have taken birth in samsara was since no beginning, beginningless, infinitely, they say like no beginning, in short. Okay, so remember all the more you think about this, yes, that's true. So we need a mother to take birth. Or we must have a brother, we must have a sister, we must have a father, we must have some teachers who really took care of us, and so forth. You think of these. Think of this, and then think more. Then you start to see other beings in the light of your mother. Then, them as mothers, number one is remember their kindness. This is so important. The more we think of this, then this experience will come to you. Otherwise, bodhicitta practice experience will take time to take, and then you feel, at times you feel so desperate that you spend time, but experience is not coming. It becomes so mechanical. So whatever experience that you have, reading things, materials about the genuine affection between mother and the child, or the brother, sister, sister, or your, so your teacher, whatever, as the Buddha taught. Whatever you read, whatever you have seen, whatever you experienced, whatever you heard, bring them in your meditation. Bring them and then invoke the spirit of, yes, I too must have had this experience in the past where somebody is there to really give his or her life for you. You feel it, and then your mind becomes more and more tender. Okay, so number 2 is remembering their kindness. Okay. I think it was the so you see that the particularly when the child is very young, how the parents, how the mothers, they sacrifice. This is amazing. And whatever you have seen, read, experienced, heard, bring them in your just recall them in your meditation. Okay. I remember in Cambridge 2003 when I was there in Cambridge, in England, Cambridge, there was the host of my talk was, of course, there was a host there, and his wife. His wife seemed to have a great affinity to Dharma, so keen to learn Dharma. Then the actual event of the talk, she was not there. Then after the talk, I asked the husband, the host, my host, what happened to your wife? And he said that she went to pick up her children from school. Look, she is sacrificing hearing the Dharma discourses or the philosophical talks. There's so much joy in her, yet she sacrificed that to go to pick her children from the school. So this is a mother's love. It's amazing. It's amazing. And in fact, there was, you have your own experiences. You read things, you have seen, read, watched. Bring them. In fact, there was one which is, say, a mother and a son. And the mother, one of her eyes, she lost one of her eyes. And whenever the mother comes to see the son in school, the son feels so embarrassed. So embarrassed, son did not want the mother to come to school. He feels so embarrassed in front of the other boys and girls. And then gradually he got married, he has his own children, and then the mother comes to visit. He was yelling at the mother, saying that you are scaring my children, don't come. Always pushing the mother. And then mother was showing interest to come to meet her son and her grandchildren. And the son was pushing the mother away. Don't come. You are scaring my children. You must scare my children, and so forth. Then one day, he got a message. He got a mail, and the mail was from the mother. And the mother said that you got this. By the time you got this mail, most likely I will not be on the planet Earth. I will not be here. And I'm writing this letter to you to just tell you I'm sorry. I'm sorry for making you embarrassed in schools by me visiting you. I feel sorry that I'm creating fear. I'm scaring your children. I'm sorry for that. But you should know how I became somebody without eyes. When I gave birth to a child, meaning him, the doctor has diagnosed that one of the eyes is not functioning. So I gave my eye to that child, to my son, so that the son doesn't have to feel embarrassed to go in public in the future. The son doesn't have to feel that I'm scaring my children. So because of this, I gave my eye to my son. Now you have the eyes. You don't feel embarrassed when you go into public. Your children are not scared to see you. It's because I gave my eyes for you, that you don't suffer through it. What I'm going through now, I could see that it's happening on you. So to protect you from that, I take it to myself. I give my eyes to you. Now I'm suffering. I could not see my own son because of that. Then he regretted. He knew the whole story only then. Till that point, if the mother said it, then the mother did not want to share this. Because that she doesn't want to make the son feel uncomfortable hearing all these things, that he was blind, born blind. So the whole situation was revealed. This is a mother's love. So when you remember these thoughts, just remember these thoughts, stories, just recall. The moment you recall these stories, something will melt in your heart. Something will melt. Your heart will melt. Your heart will become tender. So this is how compassion grows. Appreciation for others, love and affection keeps growing. This is how a bodhicitta, the expands. Okay, this says what? Remembering the kindness of others. And then think of more. Think of more. Okay, before we wind up, I'd like to share one anecdote. When I was in my 20s, I used to come from all the way from South India to Pathankot by train, like I think 3 nights, 2 days, or two nights, 3 days train ride, and then to Dharamsala to receive teachings from His Holiness Dalai Lama. Then on the train, that was again, it was like the most beautiful time for me. That in the same compartment where I was, there was a father, mother, and the son. And the mother, the trains where at the cornermost you have the window. So the mother was sitting there, and the father was sitting next to the mother, and the son was sitting on the opposite of the mother. And I was just watching the dynamics between these three: the mother, the father, and the son. And same. The son, he was very young, age 7, 8. He was a little mischievous, naughty. And the father would say, hey, and the son would become very stiff, like this. And the mother would say, they call her husband, that I need this. Yes, the husband is very alert. Yes, I need this. Yes, he opened the bag. And what else? And the mother, the son would complain, and the mother would say, yes, my dear, what do you want? I was so amazed. What is this? The son is under the control of the father. The father was under the control of the mother. And the mother was under the control of the son. It's so beautiful. Why the son was under control of the father? Because he's scared. And why the father was under control of the mother? That I don't know. Why the mother was under control of the son was because the mother loves the son. Beautiful. It's amazing. It's amazing. Right? And on another occasion, again on a train, the father, mother, and the son. And they have only 2 beds. One below and one the upper deck. And the son was maybe aged like 9 or 10. And the son was in the upper deck. And they say now like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. And the father said that, my son, you sleep with your mom down and I'll go up. And he said, no. And the father, you want to sleep with me? He said, no. What do? I want a separate bed for myself. This is what the son said. Right? So, a little boy is covering the whole one bed. And a very tiny, thin bed for the 2 couple, husband, the father and mother. And the father was sitting like this on one side, the mother was sitting like this, whole night like this. And meanwhile, the mother was in a relaxed state like this, relaxed state. And the The father was a little mischievous. No, the boy was a little mischievous. The father would say, hey. And the boy would say, yes, Dad. Right? He was there to comply with the father. And anything that he needs, he will call the mother. And the mother will tell the husband. Right? Hey, my son wants this. And the father would open the bag. Right? And then the mother saying, hey, are you okay? Calling the son, are you okay? You don't eat something? Every time she's inquiring about, and whatever the son says, yes, I need this. The mother will say, hey, the husband's name, husband, I still remember, Sonam. Right? Sonam, right? They take this out. And the husband did not know what are the things, where the things were put. He only knows how to open the door, and he did not know where. The wife, the mother knows exactly what is where, right? Particularly those things related to the son, she knows exactly. And then his son, you have to take the medicines, right? And then the son will say, yes. Sonam, again Sonam, poor Sonam. Again he would get up and he said, medicine. And he's not finding the medicine. Because the mother was making sure that everything what the son needs was there. And the Sonam, the husband would say that, no, I don't find it. No, you just open it to the right at the bottom. There's something like this. Below this, there's something like this. She was very precise what this son needs. Everything she knows. This is mother's love. You getting it? Okay, we'll stop here. Declaration prayer. Page 5-2. I dedicate the merit thus gathered towards the realization of the deeds and the prayers of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas those 3 times, and to the upholding of the doctrine of scripture and insight. May in all lives, through the force of this merit, never separate from the 4 wheels of the Mahayana vehicle and a Boddhicitta perfectly under 2 stages. From my 2 collections, vast space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the shield leading Buddha for all those whose minds wisdom has planted by ignorance. Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. 3 precious together.